The Bamboo Project wholesaling video starts in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Bamboo Project YouTube channel. My name is Donivan Gray.
And my name is Melissa Burnett. We currently have over 250 videos on our channel of our Dr. Sebi inspired diet, travel vlogs, sports, music, clothing, podcast, beauty, and everything us. We live in New York City, and this is episode 13 of our virtual wholesaling series, where we give weekly updates on our journey to close our first deal.
We started this series for people who want to get into wholesaling, who don't have any money, who don't have any mentors, and want the perspective of people just starting out. Today is January 10th, and this is last week's update.
So in this past week, I helped Donivan run numbers for the properties that were sent to him, because he gets sent like a lot of properties. And I also focused on editing the wholesaling videos, and there's going to be one going up very soon. What I realized from the video that I was editing is the way that I speak. What I mean by that is that I have a script in my head. So Donivan would say that to me in the video, like it's like you know you sound like you're following a script, and it didn't really like resonate with me because I had no physical script in front of me. So I was like, I don't really know what you're saying. But after listening to one of these videos, I said my name. I said, hi, my name is Melissa. And then I got kind of like sidetracked for a second. And I paused. And then I was like, hi, my name is Melissa. And it's kind of like, that's not, I already said my name. So I just restarted my script again. So it's just like, it's an anxiety thing because I'm uncomfortable with cold calling still. After seeing Jamie's comment, because I think that in my head, I think that everyone is like Donivan, where it's like they have more, I guess, confidence being on the phone. But I forget that there's also people like me that would want to work on being more assertive or understanding the dynamic, the power dynamic in the conversation. What I decided to do is I'm going to go back into those old wholesaling videos, and I'm going to, because Donivan coaches me after the phone calls that we have. So I'm going to go back into those old phone calls, and I'm going to post those clips where Donivan is either coaching me, telling me what I could do differently, telling me what I did well, because I feel like it'll help people that are doing wholesaling that are like me, that can be kind of either agreeable or soft-spoken when on the phone, because it works to our disadvantage when we're talking to these agents and trying to strike up these deals.
I always laugh when Melissa says stuff like I'm confident and things like that, because when I'm interacting with somebody on the phone, or you know, whether it's an agent or a seller or buyer, whatever the case might be, I still feel the same way that she feels on the phone. At least I feel like I do, because I'll get off the phone and I still feel like, oh, okay, what's gonna happen? I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to mess up. You know, what lines do I need to say? And in one of the old videos, I don't know which week it was, but I talked about speaking louder on the phone, because one thing that I noticed for me that I'll do is, because I believe that this person is supposed to know about real estate and I don't, because they're an agent and I'm new, I assume that they just know more than me. I always think of it like, okay, I'm talking to you, so I should be listening to what you're saying about this property. And so my language would be more agreeable. So then when they're talking, I might, you know, they can't see me, but I'll shake my head like, okay, yeah. Or I'll say yes on the phone, or because I'm agreeing with what they're saying, even though I don't actually agree with what they're saying. Now, I have a way to kind of get around that, and once we finish talking, or once they finish talking, I'll then say, yeah, that doesn't really make that much sense, or I don't understand that. But in the moment, I do feel like I'll be kind of agreeable. So that was something I talked about. And like I said, I also think that speaking louder, I've learned that when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, for whatever reason, I don't know why, I got this from TTP. He was talking about just speaking louder. I started doing that, and I noticed I got a better response when I talk to them. So people who are soft-spoken, or girls who have softer voices, I don't know, speaking louder would probably help that. And I also realized too, when I speak louder, I feel better. I feel I'm more capable of disagreeing with the person that's talking on the phone. But I feel like if I decide to speak not normal, but just lower, my body kind of feels that same energy of going, okay, let me just listen to what you're saying, and let me just allow you to just say nonsense to me. So that's something I've noticed too. So I kind of think it's funny that Melissa says that, because I believe that I feel the same way about it. But I don't know if that's necessarily true or not.
We bought an Airbnb course, and one of the things that they said in that course that I think would be interesting in the wholesaling aspect, he said that he said that it's helpful to stand when you're talking to people, because it's kind of like a power pose. So because you're not sitting down, or you know how like if you're laying down in a bed and someone can kind of tell through the phone because your words kind of sound garbled or whatnot, it's the same thing, where it's like you want to fix your posture or you want to stand up so you can feel more powerful when you're on the phone. Another thing too that I want to mention is I started reading this book this past week, and it's called You're Not Listening by Kate Murphy, and I think that is a really good book that would help with these conversations and with these situations. One thing that resonates with me that Donivan says about the agents is that they're people too. So they have things that's going on with them, and they leave verbal cues on the phone, because if I'm only focused on the next thing that I have to say, or getting through my list, or getting through my checklist, or getting through the script that I have in my head, I'm not listening to the conversation, and it's not a back and forth flow, and they're not going to feel comfortable talking to me because they feel like they're not being heard. And honestly, listening gives you an advantage because you get to really hear in their voice if they're not sure about what they're saying, if there's something that you can use to refute what they're saying that doesn't put them on edge or doesn't make them feel like, you know, you're trying to one up on them, and you get to read the conversation better.
I feel like when she'll be talking to the agent, she's not listening to them, because like she said, she's so laser focused on, okay, I have to ask them about the property. I have to ask them and tell them I'm a cash buyer. I have to tell them that I close in 30 days and 10-day EMD. And she may not even allow them to offer those things to her because she's so focused on saying it herself, because that's what she has to go by, that script. So I think that just people who are doing cold calling, I think listening is very good to do, because it'll come back around. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're on the phone talking about the person's cat or something like that. They might bring up later like, oh yeah, so you want to buy the property, you know, so what exactly kind of terms are you looking for? They might ask you that, and you go, okay, I want a 10-day inspection period and I want a 30-day close it. And they might go, okay, well, we can do 30-day close but only 5-day inspection. And you didn't have to be uncomfortable when you said it, because they actually asked you what it was. But if you're ignoring the cues of the conversation, where they're actually trying to have a conversation with you and talk about something, whatever that thing might be, then it kind of turns them off, because they're still trying to open up to you as another person, and you're like, well, I'm wholesaling right now. I'm not thinking about nothing else but wholesaling. One thing about that thing is funny, because even with me, I've noticed that if I'm cold calling somebody, my energy can change. So depending on the day, and I kind of noticed this over the last week, I haven't been cold calling as much as I was in December when I was doing it every day for like 4 hours every day. So I feel like I've gotten a little bit rusty. So when I get on the phone, I don't even have the same oomph I feel like when I'm talking to someone. It just kind of wears off. I think that just comes from not doing something for a while. The reason I'm bringing that up is because I watched, Jerry posted 2 videos this week, or this week or last week. One where he did the wholesaling show in Baltimore, and one in Philadelphia. So the one in Philadelphia came out first. I thought it was funny because I'd like, we've been doing properties or work in Philadelphia. I'm like, I wonder if he posted that because, you know, we've doing work in Philadelphia. I thought it was just kind of funny. But he did, that video is from like a month ago, I think. I really wanted to see how he worked in Philadelphia, because I know that the agents in Philadelphia could be a little bit harder to deal with than other places. So especially since they ban wholesaling, and everybody keeps saying that. And people that think that they banned wholesaling in Philadelphia, I can tell you right now, I've talked to multiple people in Philadelphia who wholesale properties, and they are not concerned with this law. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's something they put out there, but it's not that serious. And for me, what I've believe is that really only pertains to people who are doing off-market deals. If you are represented by an agent, then the problem that they're trying to solve by banning wholesaling are not in play, because the person put the property on market, they have somebody represent them, so they're not getting lied to about the numbers, and they're not getting a bunch of random phone calls about their property. Those things don't happen. And if you read the laws that they put in place, they put them in place to stop those 3 things that I just named for off-market deals. Agents in Philadelphia have heard about wholesaling, and they're not too keen on it. So I wanted to see, okay, how is Jerry going to handle calling somebody in Philadelphia? And the reason, like I said, I'm bringing this one up is because I don't think that he was as confident as he is with other people that he's called. And he tried using a double dip strategy in that phone call, and the guy said to him, yeah, I'm the buyer for 3 out of 4 offers that are on the table right now. So you offering me dual agency is not really anything. It's not really an incentive to me because everybody else is offering me the same thing. And I feel like during that call, Jerry wasn't the flipping genius that he usually is on the phone calls. Seeing that made me, it's kind of funny for one. And then two, it kind of just made it human to know that even if you make millions of dollars a year doing real estate, flipping, wholesale, whatever the case might be, every time you get on the phone, you're not going to be a superstar. You're not going to get on the phone every time and be in the groove 100% of the time. So what I've been trying to do is get myself in that mode of, okay, I'm about to make a phone call. I'm about to go and do these things. Let me make myself comfortable. Let me put myself in the right space. So when I do these phone calls, at least I put my best foot forward. I don't want to come on the phone and, you know, maybe I'm tired, which has happened before. People will call me. I get calls all the time. So somebody might call me. I'm in the bed. This, I think, happened like 2 days ago. They called me about a property. I had to get out the bed, go look at my computer, and then try to kind of recalibrate my mind. Okay, what's the numbers? What are we doing for this deal? What's happening? What's going on here? I'm not asleep, but I was definitely in my bed under the covers. Even if you have a bad phone call with somebody, it's not that important. Just try and make sure that you go into it with the best mindset, like Melissa said earlier, where it's like stand up, maybe do some stretches, do some push-ups, you know, jog around, do something just to get your body ready to do it. What I like to do personally is I'll call properties that I know are probably not going to work at all in terms of getting a deal for it. If it's listed at like 300K, I'll offer 2 and I have to offer 195. I'll call those properties first because now at least I get into the mode of offering low numbers on properties that probably won't work either way. So now when I get on the phone with somebody that is actually a good number or good deals, I've already dealt with somebody who might be difficult for the day. So I'm like, okay, that wasn't even that bad. That felt good. Okay, now you're getting warmed up. I'm ready to go. And now I'll call the people who I'm like, okay, I know this might be a good deal. I'm gonna try to lock this one up.
You get used to, sometimes you really do need to warm up. And it's hard to warm up on your own without having that, you know, that human kind of, interaction. Because then you get to think of things like, oh man, I should have said this, or I could have said that, or I forgot to say this. And then you learn how to kind of incorporate that better into the conversation. And
I enjoyed the Philadelphia wholesaling show video. My only issue that I had with that is since I've been doing wholesaling, this is going to be week 13 that I've been trying to get my first deal. There's a lot of things I've learned along the way. And what I saw Jerry do in that video, I wasn't really happy with because I feel like for people who don't know about wholesaling, who are just watching the show to get information and learn, he was doing something I've talked about here, which is like fudging the numbers. He had found a property. I don't remember the exact numbers. I'm going to use some arbitrary numbers. Let's say that he found a property and it was listed at 150 and the rehab or the retail or the ARV was 200 and he had to get the property at let's say 100, right? He was using 80% rule for the property, then, which is not what most people use, especially not in Philadelphia. From what I've seen, not Philadelphia. And then he was also changing renovation costs on the property. And I think it was funny because as he was doing it, I'm watching the video, I'm like, Jerry, I know you're not about to tell people that this is what they should be doing when they're looking for numbers or looking for deals. And as he was doing it, when he finished, he was like, now I would never do this. I would never do something like this, but some investors might do that. This is why I always say you should have buyers. Have buyers. I wouldn't say first necessarily. I would say get buyers first. I definitely think that my tune right now is get buyers first over the deals. And that doesn't mean spend all of your time getting buyers, still look for deals, but put a heavy majority into buyers because like he was saying in the video, if somebody wants to, which most people are not going to do, but if he said, you know what, 80% for 80% ARV minus repairs, and let's say that person decided that they wanted to do $30 a square foot for heavy rehab, if that's what they wanted to do. If you find somebody like that, then sure, you can bring them a bunch of deals because those numbers are preposterous. So you can bring them all amounts of deals, all types of craziness. But that's why I think it's good to have more cash buyers, or at least have cash buyers first. So I guess I just think that it was funny because one thing I started to realize too, when it comes to selling the wholesale dream online, everybody seems to now have just become a marketer. It's become like, okay, I'm going to market wholesaling and I'm going to make money off of wholesaling, of marketing it, as opposed to actually wholesaling. And one thing I really want Jerry to do is I don't know if he's done this before. If he has, somebody can let me know. I want to know how many of the deals that he's done on the wholesale show have actually turned into a deal. because a lot of people watch those shows because they want to learn what to do to get a deal. But if all you do is call somebody and they never get a deal, then I'm not actually learning anything from that call, because when I get on the phone and say what you said, I never get a deal. So I would like to know how many of those times that he's called somebody on the phone that actually turned into something, because he did something recently in Baltimore, and that was a short sale, which if people do not know, a short sale is when the property is owned by a bank and they are willing to sell the property for less than a loan amount,
and then the bank absorbs those costs. The bank takes the loss, so it lets the person off the hook, and the bank takes the loss. And I think it's better than a foreclosure that way, or something like that.
So if the property is, let's say they owe $150,000 on the property, they will sell it for $130 because the bank doesn't want to have to pay $150. So they'll sell it for $130, and then they'll just say, you know what, I'll pay the $20,000 out of my own account, and that's the bank's account. And they'll prefer that. And that way the owner doesn't have to worry about foreclosure. They don't have to worry about paying any money. They're just off the hook and they're good to go. So he was doing a deal like that in Baltimore. When he was talking to the agent, he was more of a flipping genius in that video. I feel like he was more assertive in that one. I feel like he was pushing back as opposed to when it was in Philadelphia. And it just goes back to every phone call that you get, you're not going to be Superman on the phone. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. But all you can do is attempt to do better on the next phone call. And that's all you can do. But every time you call, it's not going to be like an amazing phone call. You can see that from my videos, Jerry's videos. You're gonna see a live call. Some people are going to be like, why did you say that? Why are you acting like that? Why are you sweating? You look like you're shaking. Don't you make millions of dollars doing this?
Short sales, typically, you can't wholesale those with assignment of contracts because it's with a bank and they have a no assignment clause. You would wholesale that by doing a double close. That
is why I have never even looked at a short sale. But funny enough, I was talking to someone today who's in the Bronx who is getting back into wholesaling. I never even heard of this before, but he has, I wouldn't even call it wholesaling. He found a short sale property and was able to get paid, he said $7,000 for telling a realtor about that property, and they paid him. And I think he also was able to get paid $800 for another property that he brought to a realtor. So I just thought that was very interesting because I don't think the seller has to pay him for that. So I don't really know how that works, because they could just be like, all right, you don't own the property, there's no contract for it, so I can just go and buy it myself. In that Baltimore video, he got mind you, the property was listed on the market at $195. And he submitted an offer at $90, which is why I said earlier, I want to see if these deals actually go through, because I submit deals like that all the time and they just don't go through. Like I actually had 2 this week, which is a sign to me that I'm getting closer to getting a deal. Is I got them as soon as they came out. I was like, okay, I found these 2 properties that I want to get. Shout out to TJ in Philly. He was actually able to go to one of the properties and get pictures. So that was dope. And the other property was in Atlanta, Georgia. And both of them were great deals. I'm talking about phenomenal deals. They would have been, if I got under contract for what I needed it to be at, it would have been great. And I was probably a couple $1,000s off, but they went pending. They came out within, let's say on Wednesday, and they went pending by Friday. So that lets me know that, okay, these are good properties for investors. It was listed at whatever price. Somebody came in and got it. Like I said, that's why I want to see if these deals that Jerry has in the wholesale show videos actually close, because then it kind of lets me know that, okay, he is negotiating $100,000 deals or $100,000 off the asking price for a property, because I can submit an offer to somebody that a property is listed at $400K. I can submit an offer for $90,000 or $80,000. I can submit that and then make a video and post it, but that doesn't mean that they're going to accept the offer. And they might even write it up for me. They might write it up to a dual agency and everything, and then they just go, well, we're not accepting that. That's not going to happen. So like I said, I really hope to find out whether or not these deals actually close. And if somebody knows, you can send that to me or just put it in the comments. I really want to know if he's actually closing on these deals. I had to laugh when I was watching that video, because if you do on-market deals, this is what you are going to hear all the time. And me and Melissa had a joke about it. Before it happened, we paused the show. We paused the video to say, okay, what do you think the agent's going to say right now? Because we've called enough agents to pretty much hear probably 80% of what they're going to say. And 95% of agents will all tell you, they will all say this to you. You go, hey, man, I want to offer $100,000 for this house. They go, $100,000? I have tons of offers above that, right? I have 5 offers I got yesterday that were above that. And you'd be like, you got 5 offers? And I thought it was funny because Jerry said, well, why did you accept them then? Like, if you had offers that were so much higher than mine, why didn't you accept them? And that happens all the time. And that's something I talked about in the last video, where I want to push back more against the agents, because I feel like that's kind of just the basic thing to say is, oh, I have way more offers higher than that on this property. And I'm like, the property on the market for 4 or 5 months, almost 6 months. And you telling me that you have offers higher than what I'm asking for right now, and you're not accepting them? So obviously, either you lying or y'all don't know the value of that house. Because if every investor that comes here is saying, hey, I want to pay $100,000 for this house, and you trying to tell me that there are investors offering 165 and a house on market for 185, I'm like, these investors either are not serious because they don't know what they're doing, and they're probably not going to close because that's craziness.
It's really easy to get got that way. I got that way. Someone, it's probably one of my first properties that I tried to get under contract. They were saying, well, oh, I have this other offer that's like $10,000, $10,000 more than your offer. And it's like, oh shit, fuck. Like, can I go up? I'm checking my numbers and stuff. And then I'm like, I gave them my highest, my max allowable offer. And then they came back to me and was like, hey, so can we get the number that you just gave us now? But it's like they didn't have another offer.
Yeah, and that happens all. I'm telling you, you will hear that all the time on market deals. All the agents will say that. Oh my, they're gonna say two things. And shout out to Lili, because she actually has a video of her doing this and checking the agent on this, because this is something I want to start doing more. Is when an agent tells me the seller won't accept that, I want to go, I hear you, but tell them that anyways. Like, tell them that your job is not to think about what they want to do. Your job is not to assume what they like or don't like. Your job as an agent to say, hey, I got an offer today for $2. Do you want to accept that? Because here's the thing. I don't know, and neither does the agent. They don't know what the seller is going through. What happened if in that 5-hour span that they said no to that last offer, something came up? Maybe somebody got hurt in their family and need the money. Maybe some debt just came in. Who knows? They're going to move. Anything could happen. So I need you to go and tell them what my offer is, because we don't know what changed in the last 30 minutes. So if you call them and they say, hey, I don't want to take it, fine. But what I think the best possible scenario is, outside of them accepting it, is them saying, well, I can't do 110, but I could do one. Can you do 125, Donivan? That's better than what I've been doing, which I hate that I've been doing this, is once the agent tells me no, that seller won't accept it, I go, ah, damn, okay, all right. And I kind of just let it go at that. And they go, all right, well, guess we're not talking about it no more. And I'm like, I know that I need to push more on the agents. So, and I said, I've seen Lili do that. So I'm like, that's something I definitely want to start doing more, is pushing back against when people tell me that.
Another thing too, even if they disagree or even if they decline your offer, it helps them to kind of reset their mind about what price it's going for. Because if 5 people offer $90,000 and you're listing your house for $150,000, you obviously need to come down. Because everyone is offering 90, you have it for 150. If you keep it like that, you're not gonna sell it. And at the end of the day, they want to sell the property. That's why they have it listed. So that's very helpful with that. With the 5 people that want to get the property at 90,000, if the agent never tells the seller that, then the seller is gonna be there thinking that they can get this house sold for 150, which is unrealistic.
Yeah. So that's, like I said, that's something I definitely want to push back on, is being like, listen, I don't care. And the videos that are going out now are from December. Yes. So you probably won't see me doing this until whenever we get all those videos out. But I'm going to be pushing back more on that, because that's just something I think that would get a lot more deals done. And it may not get them done that day, but at least I know that when I call back in 3 or 4 weeks, I'm like, hey, the seller want to come down a little bit? What they want to do? No? All right, I'll call back another 4 weeks or 3 weeks, and let's see what happens then. For everyone who has been watching this series for the last, I guess it'd be 12 weeks now, there are a couple stories you guys know about. 2 of them in particular. Okay, I'm going to start off with the one that I said the person contacted me back on. Right? And I said the first day of the year, somebody texted me and said, hey, I have this deal that we talked about a couple of months ago. Can you do 125? Which was $10K lower than my last offer that I sent them. So I was excited. I'm like, okay, this is great. They sent me that. We're gonna close on this. They came back to me and they tried to close on it. Ended up texting them, this is what I want. I want $100 EMD. I told them 30-day and 15-day inspection period. I think I said 30-day close. Give them all that stuff. I said, you know what? I want to push back a little bit. Since they're coming to me, I'm going to push back on them. Now, I can't say whether or not that made it worse or better, but I do know that they did not respond. So with that being said, I don't know where that deal is at. January 1st is when I got the text that they wanted to do the deal. I texted them January 2nd to say, hey, I'm going to do it. Let's go. And I think on January 3rd, because they didn't respond to me until at all after January 1st. January 3rd, I said, okay, this is what I want to be in the terms for the contract. So right, that's what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna do that. So January 3rd, I said, hey, these are the terms of the contract. This is what we're gonna do. And nothing. I didn't hear back from them. So I called them on the 8th of January to say, hey, what's going on? Nothing. They didn't answer the phone. I texted them, say, hey, what's the update? I didn't get a response. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send the contract to them and see what happens with that. But right now, that deal is pretty much, it seems like it's gonna be dead again. The other one, as you guys are familiar with, because these are both things that I had talked to Leandra about, which is, I told you guys, is the GOAT wholesaler that I've been talking to and getting advice on. And she was saying that I should offer land. I should offer the land price for a property in Philadelphia. I was kind of shook by that. I was like, ooh, that's low. Like, I could offer like 100K lower, but you're talking about like $200,000 lower than what they want. Like, I'm not. You talking about offering them $30,000 for a house that they have listed at 155? I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. I feel like that's a lot. So, especially telling them that, you know, we just gonna knock the whole house down. But I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna try and get more confidence in the game, so I will make this phone call because it will somehow make me better at wholesaling in some way. I recorded that phone call. I will put it up at some point. I don't know when, but I'll put that phone call up. Somehow, this phone call ended up being this person bringing me deals from their wholesalers, and I don't know how that ended up happening. I'm starting to believe that they might be a wholesaler, so I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on. There's definitely something shady happening. There's 100% something shady happening. I told him that I'll do $30,000 for the land. And I felt the feedback I was getting was not that of a person who was a developer on the property. But when we finally got into the real estate and I told him, like, yeah, listen, everybody's talking to me about this property. They're telling me that 30K is what it's worth. That's not worth anything else. And he was trying to tell me that, you know, it could probably sell for 408 if I sell to somebody that he knows. No, 308 if I wholesale to somebody that, or not wholesale it, if I give to someone that he knows and things like that. And he was asking me what my plan for the new year was. I'm thinking about getting into the, you know, the short term. I think I use the word rental arbitrage because, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm wholesaling. So I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm thinking about doing a rental arbitrage, short term rentals thing. You know, you feel me? He's like, oh yeah, you know. How many trying to do? I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm thinking about doing like 20 units. I would love to do 20 units. Can I do that? I don't know. But I said like 20 units. He was like, oh, really? Well, that's great. Because I know some Russian guys that wholesale properties. They give me properties all the time. If you're trying to do 20 units, you could do that. I'll send that to you. So I was like, yeah, sure. Send me that. And I figured, listen, if they're good deals, I can find somebody for them. Maybe not me, but I'll find somebody, right? The craziest thing about this call, which is why I feel like it's a very shady call, is because he flip-flopped like 3 or 4 times about this property. Leandra has said, and somebody else I talked to too, has said, if this property is such a good deal, why doesn't he flip it himself? Why doesn't he just put the money in, fix it at 90, get the rehab out of it? He told me that he was too busy to do that. He said, listen, man, I'm too busy. I have so much other stuff I'm doing. You know, I got this 200 unit stuff I got to do with the VAs, which is veterans. I was like, okay. He said, yeah, then, you know, I got another property I got to do. It's going to take like 6 months to do that one. I got another one over the other state. I'm like, he's like, I don't got time to do it. If I could, I would do it. So I'm like, okay, understood. I'm like, that's the reason, fine. As the phone call goes on, and I'm explaining that it's not going to work for me and that the prices for renovation is higher, he was like, listen, you can use my guys. My guys are $90,000. They'll do it for you, have it done in 3 months. So I'm thinking, okay, if your guys can have it done in 3 months, the guys that you were saying are too busy to do it, if you can have the property done in 3 months with your own guys, why not go and do it? Oh, well, yeah, you know, it's about the family because the family wants to split the money up right now and they're old and they don't really care about the back end of it. You know, they just want the money up front. I go, okay, that's possible because I know my dad was like that. I know that the older people are like, listen, I want my money today, right now. I don't want to be waiting for it to appreciate. I don't want that. I want the money today. You're a developer, right? I assume you have money. Why don't you just buy it yourself, pay them the 150, and then you flip it yourself for 90, put the 90 into it, I mean, and you get the 330 on the back end. You know, I would, but like 100,000 is not really a lot of money for me. So that's not something I want to do. I wouldn't want to. It's like 100K. Why would I want to do that? It's not enough money for me. You get what I'm saying, Donovan? That's what he's saying. So I'm like, okay. So then why wouldn't you flip it and give the money to them? Like, I don't understand. You give me a lot of reasons as to why you're not flipping this house. First, it was you don't have time to do it. Then you told me that you're going to use your people who now all of a sudden have time to do it. Then it was there's not enough money for you in the flip. Then it was they don't want to do it because they need the money right now. And now you're telling me that you don't want to flip it and give them the money for whatever reason. I'm like, I don't really know if I trust this. I'm like, you sound really suspicious. And then on top of that, like I said, the phone call ended with him saying, okay, you know what? I'll bring you some stuff. I'm going to bring you some stuff. And I'm like, you're going to bring me some stuff? I'm like, what? What? I'm like, sure. If you're going to bring me some stuff, sure. He was like, you know what? That's the other thing he told me too. He was asking me what other markets am I looking at. So I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm looking in Georgia. I'm looking in Philadelphia. I'm looking in, I think I said Minnesota or no, Minneapolis, some other states and things like that. He was like, oh, that's great. So if you have anything that you come across and you need somebody to do the work for you, you could just hire me. So I'm like, I thought you didn't have the time. Where's all this time coming from? Now all of a sudden you have the time to do it, but you can't do it for this house? Something don't seem right. Like it doesn't seem right at all. One last thing, I need to work on this too when cold calling. I'll put the number out there. Like, yeah, you know, listen, I'll probably have to do like 30,000 for this property. Like, I can't really, as opposed to actually saying the words, submit an offer for 30,000. Like, I will do 35,000. That's what I'll do. So that's something, like I said, I do it very passively where I kind of just put it out there, but I definitely want to work on that more and actually telling them this is what I'm going to do for that property. As you guys know, I've been trying to wholesale land. I found somebody that wants to purchase land. I did not know the formula for it. So this is what I've learned about buying land. It's just shout out to Clubhouse. I was in one of the rooms and they were talking about this. And when you're buying land, if you look at new construction, the land price should be 20% of the new construction property that's being built in the area. So you would find a median construction property. I think that's what it was. And then do 20% of that. So I'm going to start using that to flip land, or at least be able to comp land. When somebody asks me how I'm going to fund this deal, which gets asked to me a lot, I'm going to say private money instead of hard money, because when I say hard money, they want to verify my lender. They want to they want to refer me to their lender. Once I say private money, that could be Melissa. She's going to give me $100 million right now. And that's none of your business. How I got it, where she's from, don't ask me none of that. It's a private lender. And I feel like that will then, I guess, scapegoat or circumvent any other questions that come up from what my lender is. And that can technically be a cash offer or cash purchase because it's a private lender, or it could be a loan. It's none of your business. It's private. That's the word, private. None of your business. Another thing that I'm trying to figure out now is, not figure out, yeah, I would say figure out, is between inspection periods and due diligence. So with on-market properties, they have an inspection period and a due diligence period. I always assumed they were the same thing, but I don't think that's the case. During an inspection period, it seems like you are supposed to have an inspector come to the property and check for things like radon, lead, electricity, sewage, stuff like that. And then they will give you a report to say, okay, here's this report. Give it to the seller and tell them that's what I found, right? So Jerry talks about using that to get out of a contract that doesn't work or something goes wrong. You use your inspection period for that. However, for something that he was looking at recently was a short sale. They talk about due diligence period. So I'm wondering if you can still back out of a contract during the due diligence period for something that you find on the property. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm assuming if you put down EMD, then you have to pay the EMD money. If you put it down, you're going to keep it because you backed out. However, if you can negotiate for the EMD after the inspection or the due diligence period, then during the due diligence period, you can just say, listen, I'm not doing this no more. I'm good. I found this, that, and the third. I need the property to come down to this amount. And that way, because a lot of agents will say to you that it's an as-is property. You don't need an inspection for what? Why do you need an inspection for it? You know it's as is. So, and I think that what was tripping me up was that I was always equating as is to due diligence, and it's not the same thing. They're two separate things. It's actually in a lot of state contracts that say you have a certain amount of time to do due diligence, to go to the property and walk through and look through it and things like that. So I'm going to start definitely using that term more. It's like due diligence instead of inspection period. Or at least if they bring it up, if it's an as-is property and they really want to hold me to it, I'll say, listen, this is my due diligence period. I made this Google spreadsheet, and on there, one of the tabs is like, I'll put on the screen right here. And I have all of the leads that I've ever looked at, call, rent numbers on. I have the actual address. Next to it, I have the price that it was listed at when I wrote it down. And then next to that, I have the price I need it to be at if it's going to be a good deal for me. And then next to that, I have the person's name or the agent's name for that property, right? So I'm doing this because it's going to help me to reverse engineer what people are buying for in that particular market. So what I mean by that is, if I see that a property is completely distressed, there's no way that anybody can live here, right? And they have it listed at 200, and my number has to be, let's say, 140, right? Two things I use this sheet for. One, if somehow I get notification that the property price came down, I go, okay, it came down $20,000. All right, now I'm gonna call them up and say, hey, I know it came down. Do you still want to do this deal? The second thing is, if somebody else buys this property, and also I have on the spreadsheet where it'll say that it's either active, contingent, pending, sold, off market. Those are the 5 things I have on there. Because if somebody buys this property and I find how much they paid for it, and I know it's only an investor can buy it, I know 2 things. I can call that investor for future properties, and 2, I know what numbers they buy their properties at, because it will be probably like 80% or something like that. And I'll know, okay, I see that your acquisition cost was 67% of ARV in that area, right? Now, people who do not know, acquisition cost is renovation plus buy price. That's all it is. It's a simple formula. Acquisition is renovation plus buy price, and the percentage you take that of the ARV. So I'm doing that, and I have a long list. So now I'm reverse engineering it and going, okay, it seems like everybody in this area is buying at 77%. And I keep offering the agents 70% and 74%, and I keep losing deals. Why is that? Now I'll know why. Once I have enough property to look at, I go, oh, I keep offering way too low for what this market is paying is worth. And I'm going to use that to reverse engineer it. I think I missed out on a couple this week and last week, probably just by timing. And I don't know what the market is paying for, because obviously everybody wants to do 70% rule. That's what the bottom line is. Everybody wants to do that. However, people who are wholesaling, we don't really care about that. We'll do 95% if you're going to pay us. Like, if you're going to pay me at 95%, I'll do that. I don't care. We don't care. So it's like, that's how we look at it too. So that wraps it up for week 13 of the wholesaling update with the Bamboo Project. So with that being said, you gotta be louder than that. You gotta say what's up.
Bamboo Project.
Jesus Christ. With that being said, Bamboo Project out. I don't even know why you over there whispering. Like, what are you doing?
That's what I thought.